I did it again. Somebody brings up a topic that I'm quite passionate about and I went off on them. Anyone who knows me knows that I can get passionate about quite a lot of things, so sorry. My imaginary therapist always tells me, Joris, why don't you harness that raw, vivid energy into making YouTube videos instead of yelling at your friends? By the way, your credit card was declined, so how are you going to pay for this therapy session? So, here's a video rant about Kanye West. Hey! Oh my god, did you hear what Kanye West just said in the media? That's crazy, right? Oh, by the way, he also announced the release of his future album coming out next month. Coincidence? That opening sentence right there? You probably said it this year for the release of his future album Donda with Child. You probably already said it last year for his album Jesus is King. You probably said it in 2018 for Ye. You probably said it in 2013 for Yeezus. So, Kim Kardashian the other day came out in her Insta stories asking for privacy and compassion for her husband Kanye West because they are going through the motions of dealing with bipolar disorder. She's suffering, he's suffering, everybody's suffering. So she rightfully asked for them to be left alone, which is, in my opinion, completely legitimate. Do you know what? I actually agree. That's what they deserve, and that's what they should get from us. Someone who's struggling with mental health issues deserves care and treatment in a safe, protected, private, and medically supervised environment. Absolutely. But you know what is not safe, protected, private, and medically supervised? The media circus. Your Insta stories, Facebook, Twitter, magazine interviews, tabloids, YouTube drama channels, all of that's noise in the ears of someone who's dealing with a personal struggle. So if you, as a member of the public, are truly invested in helping Kanye recover from his mental illness, stop amplifying his manic episodes by treating them as newsworthy. How about that? We need to let the professionals and his loved ones deal with it outside of public interference. We know that his condition is going to probably lead him to come up with outlandish claims and be provocateur. This is someone who's suffering from an illness, so just leave it. Do not participate in this. The best way for us to be supportive is to just ignore it. Now, what really grinds my gear is when we start using his mental health or alleged mental health to justify his political views. And I said political. Yeah, it's true that it's the mental illness speaking when he comes out publicly with completely outlandish, paranoid, megalomaniac claims. That's unfortunately part of the condition. But his worldviews and his political beliefs, that's a different thing. I checked in the DSM and nowhere does it say that bipolar makes you a MAGA supporter or turns you into a right-wing, misogynist, conservative, racist, slavery apologist. I don't... Nah. Looks like that's not a mental disorder. Looks like that's on you and your shitty worldviews. You know how now with the advent of social media there's more and more people being exposed for being racist in public as they're out or drunk or doing stuff.
That is not appropriate.
Trump's gonna you.
You need to leave now.
You need to leave.
Oh, you do not talk about guests like that.
What's wrong
You need to leave.
Asian piece of
You, oh my God. Get out of here.
Yeah, I'm out.
Get out.
And the excuse is always the same.
Oh, but I wasn't myself. That's not me. It's because I was drunk. It's because I was scared. It's because I was in whatever circumstances that made me say that. But really, that's not me.
That is the opposite of who I am.
So the conclusion is always the same. If you say racist shit when you're drunk, then you're racist, period. So Kanye, if your manic episodes lead you to openly support Trump, then you're a Trump supporter, period. People be very quick to cry cancel culture these days, but if you're using your mental health to justify your political views, you're just evading accountability. That's all you're doing. And by doing that, not only are you avoiding accountability, but you're also harming other people who suffer from the same mental illness or other mental illness by creating an association between shitty worldviews and mental illness that they didn't ask for. There is also something else that I'm not quite comfortable with. It's, yes, okay, we got used to Kanye West coming up with some outlandish claims. That's becoming something very regular in our news cycle, but is it not a little bit too regular? Earlier this month, Kanye West shocked absolutely nobody by announcing that he was running for president in this year's 2020 election. And in the same breath, he also announced the release of his new album, Don the Witch Child. And when I say that shocked absolutely nobody, it's simply because he's been saying that at every occasion, every interview. He's been telling us for 4 years now, 5 years, that he would be running for president, either for 2020 or 2024. That's not news. We've known that the whole time. People forget. And yet again, the media treated that non-information as if it was some sort of breaking news, as if he hadn't been telling us the same thing for 5 years, and that worked perfectly with the timing of the promo of his album. Coincidence? By the way, the album was supposed to come out today as I'm recording this, and apparently it's not coming out. Looks like somebody's consistently missing their deadline. As someone who's never met a deadline in his life, I can sort of relate. Kanye, I got your back. But that's not the first time that Kanye stirs controversy just on time for the release of a new album. Let's go back in time. May 2018, Kanye West on TMZ says that 400 years of slavery to him sounds like a choice.
You hear about slavery for 400 years? For 400 years, that sounds like a choice. Like, you was there for 400 years and it's all of y'all?
And that was 1 month before the release of his album Ye. International outrage. People were cancelling Kanye left, right and centre, and rightfully so. And then guess what happens next? The album sells millions. People were flocking in droves to sing his praises. 2016, Kanye West declares his allegiance and support for Donald Trump. And that was just on time for the beginning of the promo of his album The Life of Pablo.
I told y'all I didn't vote, right? But I didn't tell you. I guess I told you. But if I would have voted, I would have voted on Trump. To black people, stop focusing on racism.
And that was not a glitch. Ever since then, Kanye West has been coming out very consistently with some MAGA hat shit.
This hat, it gives me power in a way.
Up until it stopped being convenient for his career, just because he decided to run for president. Even though he's obviously missed the deadline to submit his candidacy, the elections are in a few months now. But clearly that doesn't seem to matter to him or the media or the people amplifying this non-news. Just get away with it, again. But Kanye has been showing us his true color for even much longer than since 2016, yet we seem to forget and forgive for some reason. October 2013, Kanye West decides to heavily feature the Confederate flag on his tour merch for Yeezus. Somehow he got away with it? Do you forget about that? Have we collectively decided that a Confederate flag back in 2013 was not a big deal? Yes, back at the time there was plausible deniability that it didn't necessarily mean support for the Confederate values, i.e. slavery. But with everything that's come after that and everything that we know about Kanye West and his politics since then, there's no denying possible. We know what it stands for now. From conception to production to manufacturing to shipping to stocking to retailing the thing, that can't have been just the product of his manic episode of Bipolar. That was a concerted, well thought through teamwork to use racist imagery to make profit. That's got nothing to do with mental health. That's capitalism. A whole group of people around Kanye West and including Kanye West decided that it was okay to monetize racism. Simple as that, and we ran with it. The guy has been very consistent in showing us repeatedly who he is, what his core beliefs are. That's not mental health. That's genuinely who he is. So yeah, in my opinion, Kanye West is suffering from mental illness, and you know, it must be really tough for him, for his loved ones, and absolutely he deserves all the support and the help that he can get his hand on. But what is also very clear to me is that there's an entire ecosystem around Kanye West whose sole purpose is to monetize his mental illness and to make sure that his bipolar disorder can become a selling point. And we, as the public, we don't have to participate in that. There's room for us to be critical of that system. I don't understand how we as a community can come together and rebuke and repudiate Candace Owens when she says some ignorant racist shit.
When he said that 400 years of slavery went on, at that point, it's a choice.
Right.
That's
Right. So
that's really charged language.
Right. And now we're living in years of slavery mentally, these mental prisons, and it's a choice. I very much subscribe to that.
But for some reason, when it's Kanye West who says the same thing, and not just one, but over and over and over again for years, it's been like 8 years now that he's gone off the rail, for some reason, we tolerate it. We condemn it at first, but then the community collectively decides to forgive and forget. The tolerance threshold of the community for Kanye West is so high, much higher than for many other people. I don't get it. I mean, that wouldn't be the first time that the black community is, for some reason, much more lenient in condemning the behavior of black men than it is to condemn the behavior of black women, even when they do exactly the same thing. That wouldn't be the first time, would it? For some reason, certain black men always get a pass from the black community. Like Bill Cosby, who still is, to this day, supported by some black people, even though he abused black women. What more does it take for people to stop being stands? What more do you need? Supporting black people doesn't mean supporting black people when they do harm to black people. There's a point where you have to draw the line. And it is particularly problematic in the case of black men making a habit of targeting and attacking and diminishing other black people who are even more marginalized than them, namely black women, black trans people, or dark-skinned black people. Kanye West is absolutely comfortable publicly not only being racist, but also colorist and sexist. He is responsible for colorist lyrics like "My bitch make your bitch look like precious."
Plus yo, my bitch make your bitch look like precious.
He's also made a Yeezy fashion show casting call for multiracial women only. That's colorist. And in his recent presidential rally, he publicly chastised a young black girl, calling her a sister soldier, shortly after embracing a white woman with open arms.
Hey y'all, it's Aisha, the girl who was getting yelled at by Kanye at the Kanye West rally today in North Charleston. He allowed people to come on stage to ask questions. I was one of those people selected. At the last 5 minutes, he allowed me to ask my question on gun reform, in which he did not answer. He started to go on a rant, and he started saying very incorrect facts to his crowd, and then he stopped. He put the spotlight on me, and then he interrogated me in front of everyone. Him, even though 5 minutes earlier, a white girl did the same thing, and he caught her on stage, gave her a hug and everything. And basically, once he kicked me off of stage after that, he then called me a sister soldier. And then he continued to say I wanted Wakanda, not America. And he kind of just talked badly about black women.
He also recently undermined and disrespected Harriet Tubman's legacy. Yeah, I get it, Kanye West is talented, but there are plenty of artists out there equally as talented who are absolutely not problematic and who do not lend their platform to white supremacy. So it's a no-brainer. Why are we collectively investing still so much energy into protecting, defending, justifying justifying someone's behavior who's that problematic when we could just walk away and decide to put our energy and support into other people. Look, even if his behavior is purely the product of his mental pathology, we as the public have also the agency to not agree with it and decide to walk away. And I'm not saying walk away from him as a person struggling with mental illness. I'm saying walk away from him as an artist whose entire brand relies on capitalizing on the harm that he does to his own community. We can walk away from that. We have that agency. We have that power as members of the public, as consumers of his art. And yes, the irony of me talking about it whilst at the same time advocating against talking about him, that irony is not lost on me. But I'm not a stan. I am not invested in cancelling people. That's not for me to say. But I'm tired of having the same conversation every year, and I'm tired of seeing people literally fall off their chair because they seem to have forgotten who Kanye West was. No, this is someone with terrible political views, and we must hold him accountable for that. Why are we still surprised every year? In my opinion, there's a dangerous trend of pathologizing shitty behavior and bad personality traits just in order to justify accountability evasion, and I think that we should not participate in that. You can be neurodiverse or struggle with mental illness and be a perfectly fine person without racist views. Equally, you can be someone perfectly mentally sane and be still an absolute dickhead. Those two things have nothing to do with one another. Kanye has not earned our forgiveness for all the harmful and toxic stuff that he's pushed through his platform using his power and his influence. Equally, people who struggle with mental health do not deserve to be associated with that kind of ideology. So that was my rant of the day. I believe that one can be compassionate and supportive of someone's struggle with mental health and at the same time still be critique of their behavior or their ideology. There should be space for both in the public discourse. So do you agree with me? Do you think that this is an unpopular opinion? Please let me know in the comments. Feel free to like and subscribe, and hoping to see you again in my next video. Thank you.